mid bans. The first two drafts, big thing we called out, a lot of mid lane bans. Now the Lucian is still gone. Yes, you absolutely take that away from Xiaohu, but we're going to have Smolder, Zeri, Corki as well. If you want to go back towards something like the Tristana, you could go towards Xiaohu there as well. He did play the map well on that. Mid lane is more open than the previous drafts.
So AP jungler's up, more importantly Corki, Ashe both up, and it's JDG who are going to take away the Ashe. So my expectation now would be that for Weibo, you snap up the Corki very happily. Xiaohu has played an absorbent man Kings, the champions, so I wouldn't be too surprised there. And then it's about, do you want Rel? Do you want an AP jungler immediately? Do you want double AD, right? Misfortune has been untouched. Light had a fantastic series on it. We saw Ruler match the Ezreal to the Ashe last time, and it went pretty well.
I really like giving Ruler this kind of say on the team. This guy thinks about the game on a whole nother level, and the fact that you can have this kind of impact with the Enchanted Crystal Arrows, super, super important, but I love the pickups from Weibo. They have so much CC chaining together.
Yeah, I really like this here now from JDG, looking towards that Braum, because you've already got two champions which can potentially be stopped up by that. I would quite like to see that locked in at some point, especially when you see those melee supports already being locked in. However, this is one thing which has been passed up in terms of the whole series. It's getting banned an awful lot. Corki is just so strong in the LPL right now. Imagine saying that earlier in the year with all the LPL Corki memes. Corki's good right now.
I also feel like JDG, I mean, you could just very happily lock in Braum.
Yeah.
Or a counter support matchup that you're just very content with. And Kanavi has like 5 champions that aren't banned. Weibo can't ban now all of the junglers in 2 sets. So yeah, I feel like for Weibo, they're in a bit of a hole here. They can now, at the very least, have access to locking in Misfortune if they want an early lane, matchup here, or more utility like the Varus. But again, it still feels like a bit of an uphill battle here walking into this Ashe.
I do like this adaptation though from JDG in terms of going ahead and missing a little bit more onus in this draft earlier on. Still really like the compositional strength right now from Weibo in the first 3.
And I think the reason for the Alistar over the Braum we mentioned before is that you look at the Maokai ult and you look at the Rel. What you want to do with the Alistar is tank up that Maokai ult or the Rel engage, pop ult, just cleanse through that ultimate and make sure that, much like the other 2 games in this series, the front line who can do the most absorbing of the engage is going to win the game.
Yeah, and it's kind of just a pick of how JDG would like to approach that, right? Like you said, Unbreakable Will against, Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Get it? Yeah. And just the general turnaround of how Braum works, right? So it seems like this is what Weibo, or rather JDG, are more comfortable with. For Weibo, though, removing away the Kennen. So I'm kind of curious about where Breathe is now going to go in terms of his top side selection, whether or not we're going to end up with a Cassante. He's been very absent so far in this draft.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think actually Cassante is very valuable for both teams. I think it's good for Breathe, potentially to have like an extra kind of blind pick-ish top laner, but for Flandre, it's another champion that can absorb the Maokai ult, go unstoppable, and go back into his own team.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's actually very valuable for both sides, but there's actually not really any value in Weibo not picking their AD on 4. So if JDG want it, they can just take it. JDG are also banning away 2 more AD carries. It's either MF or, Varus or another setup. They don't want Cassante.
I think they thought...
They did ban that out in game 1.
I wonder if they think that Cassante is going to get picked on 4. That's the only logical choice
Now,
for
this
me.
is the other thing I was going to say. There is also the possibility, of course, that Zeri just goes bot, right? Obviously, we're super used to it going mid. But with Weibo, Xiaohu's played it like 9 or 10 times or something, and Light's played it like once. It's just not really a Light champion on this Weibo composition right now.
If this does end up getting locked in, I can immediately see Weibo's game plan. It is all about the 5-on-5s. It's all about that objective control and trying to take advantage of all this wombo combo that can be layered on top of each other.
They also have that counterpick top lane for Breathe too. I think top lane counterpick always a very important thing. Of course, we've seen the Nasus come through in the series. Plenty of other champions can work with that too. If you lock in something tanky bruiser-ish, there's a chance that Breathe can go towards a Gnar as well. Many different flavors of similar kind of jack-of-all-trades champions.
Yeah, and I mean, I just love this Zyra pick. I mean, obviously it's Zyra. We all know what it does now. But in terms of like terrain control, all of these champions on the side of Weibo really don't want to walk into Zyra. It feels really bad. And the Gnar on top of that to match those team fights even better. A Camille hover.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I love some of the peel ability that JDG have drafted with their last 2 pieces, right? That's kind of trying to counteract what Weibo are attempting to do here. We'll see what this final pick is going to be for them, but I really am interested at these 2 different styles of compositions.
So, I'll talk about it because it's been hovered for a while. Nasus, really good lane into Gnar. Really sucks into the rest of the JDG composition. Breathe is still going to do it, and we'll see how much success he can find. Again, it's all a lot about the early laning phase and how snowballed you can really get. I just fear the amount of CC, the tenacity he's going to require, but also the desire to want ninja tabbies at the same time is really going to impact his ability to find success
inside
in these
of me.
team fights.
And talking about, you know, Nasa struggling against the rest of the competition besides the Gnar, I don't think that's any better, really, for the Maokai particularly. I think the Rel can also have issues here too. So picture this, you look at the engages coming through from the last 2 games. If Weibo try and do that into JDG's composition, you've got an Unbreakable Wall coming through, you have the Stranglethorns coming through. That buys so much time and space for Yagao and Ruler to do the damage they need to.
I think this is going to be a game where inaction being action is a very big deal. Because for JDG, it's about finding picks of the Ash Arrow and then playing off of that. Otherwise, you're just playing reactively and you're trying to absorb the pressure. But Weibo almost entirely want to absorb the pressure themselves. So I'm very curious about who's going to want prior and objectives and how this Game 3 is going to unfold.
One of these teams has to take a step forward into that last ticketed spot for World 2024 to represent the LPL as our 4th seed joining the ranks of our elite. It is a Weibo who have fought back, who have evened up the series. A team that has been faltering so much recently against would-be titans in JDG, looking for a redemption run here in summer and make it back to internationals for the first time this year. Game 3 is upon us, and the pressure is never higher. As we get into it, it has been a bit of a change in the compositional strength. Weibo very much looking at those 5-on-5s and trying to get advantage between this mid and bot lane. We're getting to Game 3 now. Let's hear those Jaios.
Whoever's leading the Weibo drums, I'm not going to flame you, but the JDG guy's doing better.
Oh my god. Subtle flame, I guess.
However, whoever brought the megaphone, good on you.
There you go, there you go.
Room check. Nothing out of the ordinary.
All right, we're good, we're good.
I will say, very interesting to see Kanavi opting into the red tree. I'm very, for AP junglers, I feel like going Comet, getting all of the, you know, the bonus ability haste and whatnot, very, very impactful for just the build. Overall, you don't tend to build ability haste items on these AP junglers, but Electri, of course, brings you that early presence and pressure, and we'll see whether or not Kanavi can bring that to play.
The caveat, I think, here is that I think Kanavi, when you look for the Comet, you're looking to play slower fights at longer range. I think if people are diving into you, the Electric gives you that extra burst threshold onto people diving in, and I think that when we see both of these teams with ability to absorb that engage and either play for the MFL or play for the carry stood behind the Alistair front line, I think that disengage and having the burst threat with that can help you a lot.
I do love so much of the driving force for both these teams being centered on Kanavi, the general of JDG, and Tarzan, my new age jungle king here. But it is also how much of a step up we've seen from mid lane. 2 legends. I mean, if people look at this year of Yagao, they'll maybe be like, oh, he's like a subpar mid lane. This guy was a legend. This guy was the reason that JDG rose to prominence, that we had the battles between him and Knight consistently.
Yeah, and I think it's really good to talk on his kind of story because, you know, it took him many, many years to get himself an All-Pro award because I think basically his regular season was a bit shaky a lot of the time. Then he would start to turn it on when it really mattered after that point. I think last year was a bit of a change for him. If you look towards Summer BLG, Yagao was on incredible form the entirety of that split. I think that's not even with it out of recent memory. That is definitely strongly within my mind. This year, I think he struggled to follow on that level of form completely, but it's definitely not like he's not Yagao still. He still can have some of that great value.
And as we see, the earlier points of the KO. I do want to take a look at the pathing, though, as we go down to it, because both junglers definitely have one thing on their eyes here.
Bot side, only difference is the left-hand side tree is a lot faster than the right-hand side tree.
It's not a tree. All right, that's
the plant. Okay,
it's
fine,
a plant.
Fine. The left-hand side plant is a lot faster than the right-hand side tree. In fact, so fast that he might be able to force Tarzan to have to smash.
I thought Mystic might auto-attack that one. That was close.
Oh, that was very risky. Yagao and Xiaohu going for a trade here. And I think Corki wins, you know, like the Gatling gun. pretty okay. And here's the evade.
I love this from Kanavi. Just go put pressure onto Tarzan, because the one thing about the Maokai is if you are just left to your own devices, it can be really powerful.
Yeah, really sucks at getting invaded. Breathe found his way down to the bottom side.
Yeah, I love what Breeze's doing here. Just drops the wave on top, says, just, look, I managed to get that push in. Let's see if I can affect something here and buy actually a topside scuttle if Kanavi wanted to go there. I mean, if the Zyra was going to start running at the Maokai again, Breeze would have been there to make the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's just kind of the freedom you get on a pick like that.
He's
cancelled his base again because Yagao's so far pushed up that maybe with Tarzan. Nope.
He's skirting the line of
I mean, the thing is, he's got so much free time because he crashed the wave.
Yeah.
And it's bouncing back into him, so Flandre is going to crash that. Now he teleports back to the top side, and he's not really missed anything.
Yeah, and Flandre went back for the cull himself, basically saying, like, look, I'm just going to get myself some value out of this. Missing.
Goes for the flash, misses the pulverize.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we have missing, sadly, name very, very top. The flat one, thumbs up. Xiaohu knows he's done a good one.
Yeah, you can see as well, player cam, Xiaohu. Little grin on his face as he threw that one up. Knew what was going down.
As we are going to take a look at any early advantages that can be gained, it does feel like, obviously, we highlighted so much about team fight composition for Weibo. Do we see a little bit more proactivity from JDG's side of things, especially once we get to that level 6?
The way they do proactivity is not quite as easy in Weibo in all senses. They have really good pick CC where you get a long range, you have an Asher or something like that. Sometimes you can get a good Alistair combo, but I do think, I mean, Adrian would put it really, really well in draft in terms of like, look, JDG, inactivity is actually quite good for them. If you use too much going forwards and go, yes, we can get a big combo, sometimes you leave yourself out of disengaged tools for then Weibo to slap you back with a Maokai, a Rel, and the bullet time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thanks.
I think
indubitably.
I think for JDG it's about the Ash Arrow. That's how they start fights. But generally, they would just love to be engaged on. The problem is the only engage on Weibo is, you know, in terms of putting your body on the line, is Crisp. Otherwise, it's just kind of fishing with Maokai ult. So again, we have two compositions. And gentlemen, please bear with me. I'm trying to set us up for what could be a very long game. If these guys don't throw heads at each other, we could be here for a little while.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
If the objectives don't force massive errors, these guys don't really want to run into each other. It's a very interesting conundrum.
Ships in the night.
Okay, for folks who've been watching LPL across the entirety of the year, they're not necessarily surprised at that from a team like JDG, where they've typically relied on Kanavi to do the ridiculous lead work when he's had Lee Sin, when he's had Nidalee. When he is the person making all the big plays, the game speeds up. Besides that, and this is something which JDG used to do in the past from 2022 and before then as well, when Yagao was previously on the roster, they are very happy to chill and wait for their moment.
And that's what was so surprising about their fall from grace in the playoffs. I find it so interesting that we obviously are getting this regional qualifier run, but that was not the initial goal for this team. They came into Summer saying, we want to dominate everything. It was very apparent in their earlier games. They were completely controlling the map, and Kanavi was ruthless. But trying to get those teeth back into sharpened form here is JDG to try to take that step forward. And on the other side for Weibo, we'll see if Kanavi ends up getting the dog bite down into him. As that plant might not be long for the world. Stranglethorn going to come out. He didn't want to burn the flash. Does indeed in the end. Does have the rest of JDG to come down, but it's going to be Breathe that cleans up first blood. And now Lightning Crash from Xiaohu. Going to go away from the fight. Breathe does not have any exit strategies, but does have Tarzan coming over as well. The Scuttle Crab had been taken, so it gives JDG a little bit more movement.
Big overestimation from Kanavi. Didn't have anyone nearby, and yeah, you walk into it with it. Sadly, Sarah can't do much.
In Kanavi's defense, why is Breathe there? You know, like in Kanavi's head, he's like, oh, you know, Breeve's got to go back to the top side, catch this wave that my top lane is pushing in, and he's just there, chilling in the red buff. But yeah, very difficult to walk away from, and yeah, Breeve's exit strategy was the fact that his team were.
All right, okay. Look at this. Okay, so the problem here is that the wave isn't crashed yet. He's going just a little too early. If he does this like 10 seconds later, sees that he isn't on turret, that's fine. Breathe has been dropping a load of waves for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really the end of the world. It's kind of just like, it's a map read from Breathe of, well, they just did Grubs, which did Dragon. Our camps are up on the top side. I can one-shot Kanavi, I'm sure. And he just does it. That's a nice bullet time, bit of chunk damage, but not the end of the world there for Rune.
I love how Breathe has just been just like piece it out of late. It's like, my people need me. Just pieces out and just goes to mid lane, goes somewhere else. It's been getting a lot of value here. I've not really seen the Nasus being played like this in pro to that level. Arrow coming through. It is spotted.
As the first arrow barely dodged out of by Xiaohu.
swing and a miss. I don't know. He's just fired up to the side. He goes over the wards. That's the big thing there. Because when you're firing Ash Rays, you want to get bot side river control to help with that.
Ooh, nice. Still double headbutt pulverize coming out from Missing. Not much to follow up on that one. Will be getting the flash play out of Tarzan here to try to get Missing down. They will end up getting that kill for Light, and now it looks like it's all Weibo all day long. Ruler is nicely kiting though, but he's in a 1v3. Yagao is coming over as well. Ruler gonna flash. Ruler gonna get one. Ruler gonna get two. No, it's Yagao that gets it in the end as well though. Xiaohu comes over and says, no, we are done with this.
JD fall into the trap we put out for them. They use their stuff to go forwards. Alistair combo used aggressively and not there for the disengage. Weibo spot the cooldowns being down, and they end up getting a real good pounce engage after that point.
It's a game of reactions, and that's going to be the case for so many of these skirmishes. Again, so difficult to walk away from all of this CC. The second that you don't have your abilities to push members away, it's just kind of over, and in this case, we've got Tarzan in the area. Flash forward, twisted advance, the knockback on the Bramble Smash. Missing can't do anything but die. Weibo walk into this choke because they can. There's nothing really that, you know, JDG and Kanavi can do about it. Great job, I suppose, from Ruler and really trying to, you know, get the most out of this. And he does pick up Light in the end, and Tarzan comes down with Yagao. But still, more members and more kills, more gold goes over to Weibo Crucial.
I think the carries on both sides are getting really good value, but it really does feel like one of those old samurai movies. The first person who draws the sword, they're the person that ends up falling. You have to keep yourself just a little bit more in reserve, as it really feels like this is a game about reactions.
Apparently, as I have my color casters going at it in an old duel in front of my eyes, it is a duel about these teams trying to figure out what those steps forward are. I love that first early dragon take by Weibo, the trade for the grubs, but now we have the second iteration of that coming up. We have the next spawn of grubs, potentially grub again for JDG, and the dragon coming up in about a minute.
Yeah, it's about priorities and lane assignments right now. Xiaohu, Flandre both on the bot side. They both have TP, so they are technically present for this. Breathe up in the top side, Missing space checked into Chris, but nothing should really go awry. It's just about whoever can put more numbers into mid lane and push the wave first, and then actually start the grubs. Top side prio, kind of a bit iffy. We'll see how Yagao manages to work out there with Breathe.
Flandre, no Mega Gnar as well. It's not getting that.
Baby mini Gnar. There's the lightning crash as well. The dash forward is going to get the top.
I think if you're Flandre, you're okay with that, to be honest with you. You're going to get health back from a Mega Gnar off the back of this wave. A little bit of fleet regen. Totally okay.
This is dangerous from Weibo now. They don't have good terrain here. Red side grub pit is very dangerous. We pointed that out a day or two ago. These early objective fights, if the wall is at your back and you don't have a mobile champion, it can be very dangerous. Weibo give up their position in the river.
Tarzan coming down with Breathe, Light right behind him. Bullet time pocked up, ready to go. As he did get a couple trades
Kanavi
with those, though. Kanavi getting 5 grubs total. Here's the TP coming in. Re-engage, though. Weibo want to fight. Bullet time across the pit. It's like fish in a barrel here. JDG being brought to task here. Nice little Mega Gnar ulti from Flandre. But on the backside, Xiaohu tried to get a flank onto Ruler, but he might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew. Ultra Shock cross onto 2, but they do end up getting another kill for Ruler. And Yagao still kicking for JDG. The Weibo will be happy for the most extent.
It's a 2 for 2 in the exchange. By the end of it, multitasking from Ruler on the back end of that fight, and it's actually JDG that suffer from the red side terrain because they end up in the back of the pit. They get all 6 grubs. That's the crucial thing, but the fight looked pretty damn okay for Weibo for the most part because of Light's ult.
Yeah, I love that Chris uses the Hex Flash. Doesn't get necessarily the best angle, but it's enough. Gets a good bullet time over here. It is that fish in a barrel. Both of the carries really getting untouched for the entry of this fight, but Ruler managed to get himself that press. The attack is joined by Yagao. I think the carries of JDG have been doing well. And then over the shoulder, Ruler takes another one. That's just great.
Incredible stuff to see both the carries of JDG stepping up when it matters most here. Obviously, worlds on the line for both these two teams, but a step forward in this best of 5 as well. We were taking a look at the Dragon spawn, and there's a lot of presence by Weibo on that side of the map.
Dragon spawned. Of course, there'll be a second one for Weibo. What do we have available? No flash for Xiaohu. Flash just coming up for Light. That'll be important. Carries for JDG. They don't have them. If there is a fight, we'll see. Breathe doesn't have teleport. Don't think Weibo are completely pressed to take this one, but I think that watching those summoners on those carries so important. For the most part in this early game, the carries of both teams have had quite clean fights. They've been able to get good value out of their summoners and their positioning.
I think, though, out of all of the carries in this game so far, Ruler, biggest benefactor of a lot of those skirmishes. You could argue Breathe as well, as JDG We'll get this dragon free. Weibo not really in the position to contest it. Herald's up in 30 seconds time, so maybe this transition period gives them a slight leg up on setup around that objective.
And we have to remember, this is exactly the kind of game plan for Weibo. They really want to get their item spikes. They want to make sure they're in a 5v5 around these and set up well in a lot of those regards. So giving these early objectives, trading those back and forth, not too shabby. We're going to get plates in mid lane. There is a Rift Herald coming up. Crystal Arrow does hit on the big dog. No follow-up, though.
Yeah, Breathe uses the ultimate to, again, get the half Q cooldown, manages to get some plates off of mid. Flandre is left alone on top side, so both of these top laners getting value from that. One thing which I think it's important to note as well, because we just had that second dragon taken, we're onto the Ocean Rift. Ocean Rift has more bushes. Bushes means that it is harder to control vision because those bushes are blocking out vision. This directly increases the value of these Maokai saplings. Tarzan's throwing one there, and the hawk shot we saw from Ruler. They get to cheat vision a little bit more. So watch how both these teams use those tools in important moments to buy themselves access to areas of the map, which the Ocean Rift has made a bit harder.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the control around the top side of Baron, where the blue entrance is. Not the bottom one, but the one near top side. Because that's a whole chokeway.
It's like the fire exit.
Yeah. So, again, we'll see how the terrain does actually impact a game like this and how vision control potentially may change. And again, in a reactionary game, vision control is a big deal. So, Ocean Soul definitely could play its part there.
Did end up getting first turret there for JDG in the side lane. Yagao is going to have to walk his way over here if he wants to be a part of this fight, but it is Weibo starting up the Rift Herald already.
I think 6 grubs, Triforce Corki, it's a cannon weight. That's right.
Huge.
There we go. Breeve's got a teleport. Happy with that chunk all in all, I'd imagine, here from JDG.
Yeah, but I love what JDG are doing here. They're just presenting multiple places to defend, so where we have to send a teleport bot, then they have to be very respectful mid. They lose the Misfortune ult, then they lose the blue buff after this. Look at this. It's setting up multiple options, so Weibo can only defend a number of them. They lose something in the end of it.
And it's about just utilizing the grubs, right, and getting the strength out of them. Top tier 1, very heavily chunked out. Top mid, oh, hello, Light.
Light's in a little bit of trouble now. That's a lot of burst damage, and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow does go wide a little bit there.
And there's more pressure. Again, like they just finished chunking out tier 1. Maybe this is an opportunity to step up. They're not going to do it this time because they're unsure about the position of Tarzan and what angle he could ultimate from. But again, just utilizing the tools. This time now, Light has no flash, so the next time that they go onto him, he should certainly die, or at the very least have to blow his cleanse.
This series has definitely been more reserved, I think, compared to some of the other series you've seen in regionals and then the finals. I mean, BLG, I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that. But I think looking at these two teams, one thing which I really respect is, again, this kind of flowchart of macro, trying to say, okay, I can pull you around the map like this. This allows me to get objectives in certain places. Weibo, they get themselves that mid lane turret. But again, the next step is there, spreading the map. Flandre getting in top lane turret. There's never something being traded uncontested.
And we are on first item spikes for majority members on both sides. Obviously, some of those ADs going to be waiting for those 2-3 item spikes itself, but this does bring up a little bit of the uptick in tempo, especially with the Blade of the Rune King for Ruler. I feel a lot more confident to step up in these fights and enable that approach velocity scaling there to catch anybody that might be out. Now, it is all the focus from JDG on mid lane. They're going to use those 6 grubs to take down another outer turret.
This is a huge point, because now you've taken down the outer ring of turrets. I think particularly Ashe loves this. You get vision control across the other side of the map. You get to then fire those Ashe arrows a lot more effectively out of Fog of War.
And JDG are the slow kind of team where taking a mid-tier 1 actually will have a lot of value. They will utilize the fact that they can catch the wave super high up. Again, with the nature of the Weibo composition, it's very hard to... You're not going to get flanked without knowing it's coming, right? So, again, the ability to just strangle Weibo out is going to definitely get a lot easier.
I think also another thing as well, which a lot of people don't necessarily respect when they see the Zyra in the game. If you're going over the other side of the river, mid tower is taken, Zyra puts a plant over the wall on something like the Raptors or onto the Gromp or something like that, and you take it really easily. You don't even need to put yourself out of position in the enemy jungle. So watch that gold lead between the junglers, already pretty high. I think Kanavi can start stealing away a lot of camps very easily now they've taken that outer ring of turrets.
As we do, it is going to be the resets coming out, getting back onto the map. There is a dragon coming up in 40 seconds. Will be a second for either side. I do believe, Weibo are going to feel a little bit more confident to move down that way, but it all depends on the priority in both mid and bot and seeing how they can kind of utilize this map state here. But you also have to remember for Weibo, like, to know the highest highs just last year, almost a year ago now, in that World Finals, to having to scrap your way here into a final best of 5 to get a ticket there. That's a little rough, as speaking of rough, Tarzan going to be poked down pretty heavily, and luckily gets a nice little move out. That's a huge bullet time! Light coming alive, and he's shining it right on JDG! beautiful play, but it is Xiaohu going over now with the double kill, maybe going down here himself. Flandre is looking for the big Mega Gnar, but can't find it in the end, just trying to get out of there too. Weibo, they are scrappy, but they are here to play, as they're going to get the lockdown on Flandre yet again, and Light comes up clutch.
Weibo find the snap engage. You could call it clean. I'd prefer to call it crisp. Gets them over the wall. The vision control was kind of skipped a little bit. Now Chris sadly going to fall.
What is up with you caster cursing people
I'm sorry,
today?
Chris, but hey, he made the great play before it.
That's the second time today that...
Stop it!
Second time today you've actively just immediately cursed a player on the Rift. But again, it's the same thing. Whoever goes in first just kind of has it a bit rougher. That's just kind of the nature. In this case, though, at the very least, a very decent response from JDG after getting re-engaged on by Weibo, as a teleport comes through towards the top side to catch some waves. Dragon's still up, but it seems like this is just going to be a freebie for JDG.
Yeah, Weibo, they choose to split the map again, and I think they've just seen in the last couple of minutes, yeah, it's kind of hard to fight back from this ring of turrets being down. Let's try and answer by getting some extra turrets around the place too. Xiaohu teleports towards top side and is trying to push that in. He's not going to cleanly get this, I don't think. Flandre, pretty hard to take down with his flash.
He's got no armor, but Xiaohu isn't 2 items, with Crisp well missing there as well. Okay.
There's a lot of people here.
And Light's joining the party as well. Where's the Ash arrow?
Oh, Flandre, he can't get Mega Gnar just yet. Trying to build it up here. Missing, trying to buy a lot of time for him, but this is a 5-man play from Weibo on top side. Light gets another one. The turret's going to fall, and Flandre left out in the dust. A preemptive play from Weibo, and it ends up paying up big.
And the Baron spawn now as well. That's the big problem. If JDG had managed to save another member or two, maybe they could take the bot lane in a turret. They can't. Weibo, they pounce over a series of plays, and now JDG have to stop this Baron.
Gotta try to get in there, gotta try to do something. Ruler was waiting on the wings, does end up catching out Crisp. Kanavi is in there, but the pull is gonna come through from Weibo. They really want Crisp to get an engage. 5,000 health on the Baron. Is it just going to be a 50-50? Crisp going down to Ruler. Kanavi's in the pit. He's getting burned down, though. Big enchanted crystal arrow, but it's already Kanavi gone. Baron secured by Weibo, but here comes JDG. Ruler might have overextended. Tarzan himself, though, nicely engaged, but the Magnus Storm goes a little bit wide from Crisp. And JDG, they're cleaning house. You might have gotten those purple capes, but they are torn to shreds.
I mean, for JDG, it's just about Ruler and Yagao, and the fact that I believe it's just Kanavi's damage chunked out all of Weibo before he was able to go down ensures that Ruler's chase down on Crisp is efficient. It means that they can't be re-engaged on, and then Yagao and Ruler are just shooting fish in a barrel.
This is really important too, because if Weibo had managed to get themselves a clean Baron, if they've been able to get themselves so much value out of the last few plays where they kind of broke JDG's map control, this whole game could have fallen apart.
And it's just a 700 gold tier 2 to make it all worse. Again, Crisp can't do anything. Yagao and Kanavi get all of this damage out, and again, Yagao's able to just hit the front line in front of him. Kanavi dies, they lose the Baron. It doesn't matter. Ruler then has free access because he knows Crisp is too low, and Missing's now behind him to gauge whether or not he can actually peel or go in. It's as easy as that.
Ruler's positioning there, just spacing him out, realizing if he steps one step too far forward, he probably gets 3 autos on him and immediately dies. Fantastic play from Ruler to space himself out. Again, the positioning of these carries from JDG has been very, very good in this series.
And I love it because we put all this onus on the junglers, and yes, they are super impactful, but the fact for JDG, it's Yagao and Ruler that are just stepping up heads and above. It feels so right for this team.
Yeah, this series has been a game of the front line of the junglers taking one on the shoulder for the carries to really start picking up the slack.
As is tradition in the LPL, I feel like we got to get the spotlight on the right players here, but Weibo, they will not be ones to go quietly. They still are trying to be proactive on the map.
It's also just the nature of reactive compositions. The frontliners are the ones that have to take the risk, and fortunately for both of these two sides, their carries have just been major benefactors to all of the gold. As Weibo, with the one Baron that they managed to escape with on Light, are attempting to make a new positive out of a negative right now.
Nice little play for Missing, though, to get that engage out of dodge. They were trying to get this turret here, but the wave has already been cleared. Weibo very much wanting to center around this, but Hawkshot's going to spot out Crisp and Breathe on the top side of this play. Flandre's about to lose his Mega Gnar, but they have a lot of chase down. Missing not going to be able to hit that pulverize, but does get the headbutt. It is all about this bot lane tier 2, though. Weibo are sticking around.
Yeah, Crisp almost got caught out there. His remounted auto pushed him through the control ward, which pushed him into a sapling, which then nearly had Missing capitalized, but a good buffered Shattering Strike to ensure the combo can't come down from Missing. Keeps Crisp alive as the resets come through, and now Dragon is 1 minute away. That's going to be the next point of contest.
Just imagine how different this game could have gone if JDG hadn't sweat cleaned up with that Baron. If
Yeah.
they hadn't managed to do that, this game could be so disastrously wrong for them. I love to see that both these teams are challenging each other on a macro level. As the Baron buff fades out, Weibo lose gold off of it because of the towers taken. I really feel like the side lanes and the way they've been played more slow than we've seen in other games has been very, very important. Dragon now spawning now. Red buff being taken for the team by Weibo. Jay Missing, he might have to pop his up. He doesn't have ult to pop.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't, but he did have Flash, so at least he's able to get out of that one. But that Flash is an important tool for the Alistar to have for this team composition of JDG.
Very crucial. He doesn't have Hex Flash, so it's not like he can, you know,
Gone are the days of Hex Flash.
gone are the days of Hex Flash. So
Chris did one earlier.
I mean, look, we'll see how Missing gets on without that Flash. But again, with Weibo in the river first, as long as they maintain control, they're the ones that are going to have to react to a play.
That's even just getting stuff like the Scuttle Crab really, really important.
Yep.
We talked about vision control before this and the Ocean Rift and how that makes it a bit harder. JDG, they're pushing out mid lane, gives them easier entrance. The Hawkshot gives them easier entrance. It'll buy them a little bit of time to walk in here.
Would be a soul point for JDG, huge on an Ocean Soul itself. We are approaching the point where Weibo are going to feel a lot more confident in these 5v5s, and it's going to all be about the little interactions between the two. JDG start up the Dragon already, burning it down. Weibo are surrounding them like sharks. 3,000 health down. Now Chris goes in, big engage. It is secured by Kanavi, but in the end, JDG going to fight their way out of this one. Kanavi separating the fight with the Stranglethorn. Fareed's going to have to flash his way out. There is nobody falling, but everybody's got a bloody lip here, and Weibo do not want to let them walk away. Oh, it's on a Tarzan. Give Ruler the sticks, man. And now Weibo do end up taking back their lives and surviving in that fight, but it is bloody nonetheless.
No one dies!
Somehow!
It's just a few flashes exchanged between the front line of Weibo and a couple of ultimates and a cleanse out of Ruler. That's it. Other than that, JDG, I'll call that a successful heist. They didn't have river control, they got the objective, they leave.
And we talked about this earlier, stuff like the Hawkshot really, really helped with that. Meant that they didn't have to go in blindly and fall prey to Crisp with Flash on that engage as easily from that one. I'm so surprised that combo didn't lead to just the end of the fight. It's Sorel MF, that is nasty as heck.
It's, yeah, Zhonya's out of Kanavi. Really, you know, well, not interesting, but different to what you'd normally expect, right? It's normally just Rylai's second, unless there's some other weird itemization we get. But just, again, understanding his job is to put his abilities down and survive and kite out.
Yeah, and that's really important because it is about absorbing that engage, really helps with it.
We are going to be at the 3 items fight for both AD carries, putting Light versus Ruler in an important spotlight here as we move forward. Feels like this series really has been all about these two guys.
Yeah, so now watch out for the teleport usage in the next minute or so. Baron is coming up on the table. Dragon isn't there. Watch out for wave push. Watch out for the teleports. And let's see who can start wrangling the map in their favor.
And also just talking about those items, Xiaohu is actually down 2,500 gold. So I'm not sure how close he is to finishing off that third item, whether or not that's going to turn into a shield bow or an infinity edge. Either way, still sat on components for the time being against Yagao, who's not only got a third item, but a BF sword on top of that.
The big spike. Now Ruler does have the Enchanted Crystal. If somebody overextends from Weibo, they will absolutely pounce. But here comes more of that reactive gameplay from JDG, being a little hesitant to overextend themselves, as they will just try to get that Scuttle Crab and get that vision over the Baron Pit.
And we talked about the Hawkshot before. Watch out for these saplings. Tarzan is definitely a player who's at home with this more slow structured play if he needs to, and his Maokai is really helping with that one. Hawkshot coming back. Again, these vision tools being traded off against each other. No team wants to pull the trigger and slip up on it.
If I say that this series maybe has been about Light, I mean, this split has been about Tarzan. His entrance with Breathe onto this team, it just felt like woke them up to some extent. It took a little bit to get up and running, but once they were super proficient, and that's where some of the shock value comes over these last best of fives we've seen. Tarzan going to have a big role in setting up the team fights and those wombo combos alongside Crisp as well for Weibo.
Xiaohu pushing out the side lane. Weibo, it still has been, compared to the lost streak, a better game from them. They really fell apart against Weibo. Well, I guess Weibo against Weibo. We can definitely make a conversation. LNG and
works,
VLG,
yeah,
I suppose. But yeah, I think particularly Xiaohu being able to control side lanes has been important. Being down 2,000 gold, it's hard for him to do it. He's trying his best here, but JDG, they are, on the whole, pushing Weibo back.
We're going to be looking for a little bit of control over this top side of the map again. We've seen them very willing to try to force the hand of Weibo.
I guess just barely off screen. Ruler used his ultimate, and Light doesn't have cleanse, so just keep that in mind.
I wonder what could have happened.
Context clues.
There we go. There's our pip to get confirmation. I didn't even hear it.
I like
here we
this
go.
right
Baron
now,
started.
They're just trying to pull as much pressure as they can, get them into this choke point to take advantage of them trying to enter into the Baron pit now. JDG will just go back mid lane, as we will have a little bit of dancing going on over here.
Oh man, this is so tense, and you can see again, the pulling of the trigger is a very, very difficult thing to do with disastrous consequences if it goes wrong. Weibo, they do manage to get a little bit of poke back, and they're pushing out mid lane now. Now Dragon's up in a minute too. It's not just about that Baron. Have to consider both sides of the river.
The execution floor for an engage is just exceptionally high in
it
this game.
really is.
Thread the needle.
Wouldn't expect anything less in a Worlds qualifying series. Only one of these teams can step into that fold. Is now Baron, about half health. Weibo with Breathe on the side, maybe looking for a little bit of...
They're drawing them in!
Chris found a big engage, but actually just goes right back over onto Yagao, who's going to flash away. Now Kanavi goes gold, and Ruler is there trying to take down Breathe. He does indeed. Now Weibo, they're in a little bit of trouble now. Meganar's going to fall for Flandre, though, and he needs to get out of there. Xiaohu wants to step up against him, but it is going to just turn into a 4v4 in mid.
But to me, Yagao's the bigger player than Breathe, so I feel like for Weibo, they don't mind this exchange for the time being. And they've got control of the mid wave, the bottom side jungle. Kanavi, how much trouble is he in? Is there follow-up? No. But the Ocean Soul is up. They have to deny this from JDG.
They got the re-engage onto Tarzan here, but Yagao, he can't really find anything because he's not here. You don't have a ton of your damage center for JDG.
And this is where it comes into play about both objectives being up. Weibo, they haven't got that much HP to play with.
Try to get something going here. Weibo, I thought might pull the trigger to start up the dragon. It's actually Ruler that's going to pull it out of its pit, out of its cave. Now Yagao is coming out in 4 seconds. He does have TP. Weibo maybe try to pull the trigger beforehand. The dragon resets. Here comes Yagao. He is going to join. Maybe Weibo feeling a little more hesitant to step up here.
Xiaohu's resetting, probably for mana. He's not going to be interrupted by Yagao. Tarzan is starting this dragon up. Again, Crisp is on the side, looking for a flank.
There's a TP coming in on the bottom side of this fight, though, from Weibo. Try to rejoin the ranks here is Xiaohu. Half health on the dragon once again. Kanavi and Tarzan, point and present. Who's going to get the better smite? Nature's Grasp comes across. It's going to go away the light. Of course it does. As JDG try to find a fight after Rule is going to flash away to his death. And Weibo come up big again. Light remains the shining piece for this team.
There was an early smite, and Light seals the deal. The misfortune denies the soul, and now with 3 dead, with both the carries of JDG being down, Weibo are at least going to try and push in for the Baron and try and take control of this game well and truly.
In 2 minds, you can see they were like tier 2 mid, Baron buff, tier 2 mid, Baron buff. They go towards the big purple worm in the end. But what an excellent fight, and off screen as well. Ruler was delaying Breathe from entering the fight, and I wonder how much of an impact that actually has on the engage in the river itself. You can
absolutely
see
right.
Breathe teleported here in the mid lane, used dash arrow, missed it. Flandre comes in, flashes, no longer has Meganar, and this is where the rest of the fight unfolds.
I think the problem is JDG didn't expect Weibo to start up the dragon while they were going for that. They maybe thought they'd be a bit delayed. They have to rush back to the dragon. They don't have themselves enough, and the smite comes through, and it's an auto attack. It's not even something like the bullet time what you expect out of an MF stealing it. JDG misused their tools. Ruler misplays in the mid lane, and Weibo pounce.
2 junglers in the pit. Not a jungler that comes up with a smite. Big stuff for Weibo, and again, it's been this redemption run in this series in particular, just taking advantage of maybe some of the slip-ups of JDG. Now, very much in control, it feels like, with this heavy team fight-centered composition that Weibo have.
Baron buff now. Sieges for the tier 2 are to begin. And it's all about the vision setup and whatever JDG can actually do to defend some of that. They've got a couple of core items coming in as well. Infinity Edge just picked up for Ruler, so he is still the big damage dealer for JDG. They just have to get him into a position where he can open up.
And even though he's that big damage dealer, he's still 2,500 gold behind Light. Light is just so godlike in this game. 7-1-7 arrow!
They got Xiaohu, and he's right back to it. Xiaohu is gone. Major damage dealer out for Weibo.
Who cares if you're 3,000 gold down? If you hit arrows like that, you justify the pick. The Ashe gets huge value here and stops Weibo from pushing in too hard with the Baron.
And that's why I centered on this pick for Ruler. When you give this guy the sticks, when you give him so much power to be the leading force for JDG, it comes up paying dividends here. They do take a tier 2 tower in mid lane as well.
Just is the best in our league at piloting the Ashe. I don't even think I don't think it's close. I think there are a couple of other good Ashe players in our league, but whenever Ruler's on it, always making critical picks and always able to find those crucial moments where he breaks the game apart.
Yeah, really big moment for him. You know, we did criticize him for that last Dragon, but the thing is, so many of these players here, they are showing us glimpses, those flashes of brilliance, which we know them to have. And in a series like this, that's exactly what we want to see. World's qualification on the line from this series. Moments like that could make or break this entire year from these teams. Oh, Ruler. Oh, Ruler.
Man.
Puts his hands together, channels a bit of his inner prey, lands the arrow.
Just an excellent shot, and it's funny because I think in the opening game of this series, it was about finding the mid lane over the Ashe arrow. In this case, it was Yagao. And in this case, it's flipped around. Ruler finds Xiaohu. And it does break apart some of this Baron siege, but they still got the tier 2 in the bottom side Weibo, and they're now looking for the top side engage coming in from Tarzan.
They do end up getting it. Nicely done with that Ancient Grasp across. They'll get that tier 2 tower. That's exactly what they came for here. And this time, it will not be a negative Baron power play, as they do end up making a positive one out of this and getting some lasting damage done on the map state of JDG.
You know what, JDG, at least they have the fact that there is no soul point for Weibo. There is a chance they could even let this next Dragon go if there's another macro option available for them. They're not that desperate just yet. Folks, I think we could be in for a bit of a tense late game. There is every chance that JDG choose to stall this and look for a better option.
Again, hard to engage on both of these team compositions. So it really does depend on how big the opening is after a team fight, right? How hard do these teams commit their bodies to these plays, and will chase downs actually occur after these re-engages?
So let's look at the setup for this Dragon. Again, JDG, they don't have to take this fight, but if they can, it's a great bonus for them. They could get that Ocean Soul. They're trying to use that Hawk Shot, using the plants as well. That's another thing which can help cheat the vision, use those plants in the brush, and fighting over this mid-wave. Mid-wave makes it so much easier to go into River.
They do have full items on Light now as well, something to think about, but the Wombo combo is ever present for Weibo. JDG need to find a way in or play reactively to Weibo overextending. Right now, it's just impossible to even get in the choke point.
We have to keep our eyes on Crisp and what his priorities are, whether it's Peel, whether it's looking to set up for Light, and on the opposite side for JDG, how free the access is into the backline for Flandre, and if he can finally find a big Mega Gnarl.
If the fight starts now, Ruler won't have Flash coming up in the next few seconds. This Dragon being started by Weibo.
It is indeed Xiaohu, the primary factor in that, doing about half its health already. JDG feeling hesitant. They don't get the combo there on a Crisp. And now Weibo, I mean, they feel super confident to step up. Flandre is in Mega Gnarl.
Teleport!
A little bit less, but here's the flank. As it's going to be Breathe, looking for a big one. Yagao is caught out, going to Valkyrie away. Here comes the Nature's Grasp yet again, Weibo. They are just pushing the buttons of JDG here, missing. He's getting lower and lower as the sun is starting to set. A chance, Crystal Arrow goes wide, and Weibo, it looks like they're playing mind games right now with JDG. Ruler's all by himself now as well. Will not fall to the Ultra Shock Laser, but Chris goes back in for the engage. Now Kanavi going golden. Flandre nowhere near Mega Gnarl, and Weibo wiped the floor with JD Gaming.
It all goes right for Weibo. The Mega Gnarl times out. The TP from Breathe is good. It forces Yagao into an awkward spot, and there's just not enough damage returned by JDG on the opposite side of the map.
Insane damage from Xiaohu of Light. Ruler,
Oh my God! He just shut them all up and zipped their mouth closed. Now Tarzan, oh, that sapling, maybe it's not enough. He wants the approach velocity. No, he goes back in. Oh my God, he's got the fight, Ruler! You keep doing it, but it doesn't matter, because Weibo finishing the game, and they do not want to go quietly as they step up to 2-1.
It was a tense game 3. For the first time in this series, no true hard engage on both sides to consistently butt heads. But in the end, it's about the team who was just a bit more disciplined. And it was Weibo in the end who don't overstep their bounds more times than JDG do. And it's JDG who just can't find their footing in the team fight.
You just look at that last fight. JDG, they try and push for that soul, maybe thinking that this was the fight they needed to take. I don't think they had to. I think they could have let that one go if they couldn't find it. They get themselves drawn into an objective again. Weibo did that multiple times this game, where they'd go towards the objective, look for a teleport behind them, bring them into this pincer movement. Incredible Nasa's flank to get the flash out of Yagao. Ruler separated from the team, and that really felt like the difference. The positioning in that last fight, all it took was one fight with the carries, couldn't really get that damage off. It ends the game.
I love that they're finally realizing Light is the man that is going to bring them over the edge here. Incredible.